Ever imagine being stuck in a giant metal tube, like sinking deeper and deeper underwater, the air getting thick and heavy, pressure building all around you?
Sounds claustrophobic.
Yeah, not exactly a relaxing spa day, right?
Definitely not.
Well, that's exactly what a group of scientists signed up for during World War II. They volunteered to be sealed inside these chambers, pushing their bodies to the absolute limit to figure out how to survive underwater.
And their work didn't just revolutionize diving and submarine safety, it even had implications for space exploration decades later.
It's an incredible story, and a lot of it remained hidden, tucked away in classified documents and personal accounts.
Until recently, yeah. Dr. Rachel Lance's book, Chamber Divers, really dives deep into this remarkable chapter of scientific history. It's full of ingenuity and resilience, and it really blurs the lines between, brilliance and risk.
And this book is going to be our guide for this deep dive. It really does read like a wartime thriller. I mean, Dr. Lance unearthed some incredible details from military records, diaries, and even interviews with the families of these unsung heroes.
And you really get a sense of the context, too. We're talking about London during the Blitz, bombs falling every night, resources stretched thin, and just this overwhelming sense of urgency to find solutions that could help win the war.
It's crazy to think about. And Lance sets the stage with a gripping account of Operation Jubilee, the 1942 raid on Dieppe. It was a devastating loss for the Allied forces.
It really was.
Highlighted just how little we knew about underwater conditions. It was a huge wake-up call for both beach landings and submarine operations.
Yeah, the Dieppe raid exposed a lot of limitations in the existing knowledge and made it clear that, scientific breakthroughs were absolutely essential to improve underwater safety and effectiveness. And that's where chamber divers come in.
That's where they come in. Leading the charge was JBS Haldane, a brilliant, how should we put this, a brilliant and colorful geneticist.
You could say that.
He put together a team of researchers at University College London, and they were just as unique as their leader.
This was not your average group of scientists.
Nah.
You had Helen Spurway, a gifted statistician who apparently wasn't afraid to knock on doors to collect salamander data for her research.
Wow.
And later, she actually became romantically involved with Haldane, so there's a whole other layer of intrigue there.
It's like a soap opera and a scientific thriller all rolled into one.
Right.
And then you got Ursula Philipp, a German Jewish refugee who fled Nazi persecution. And her daughter remembers her as just a brilliant scientist who, endearingly, had a habit of spilling food on herself. It's these little personal touches, it makes this story so relatable. Reminds us that there are real people behind every scientific discovery.
Yeah, real people with their own quirks and experiences. And speaking of that, it's important to remember the political and social backdrop of the time, too. Anti-Semitism was still widespread, and the threat of fascism loomed large. So for researchers like Ursula Philipp, Hans Kelmis, and Hans Grunberg, who were all Jewish refugees, their work took on even deeper significance.
Imagine the weight of that responsibility, right? Working for their adopted country's war effort while still carrying the scars of persecution and loss.
It's incredible.
It really is a testament to their resilience and dedication.
It is.
So with bombs raining down on London, this team tackled two critical problems that were plaguing the war effort.
Carbon dioxide poisoning and decompression sickness, what we know as the bends.
Right. Life or death issues, especially for submarine crews. High levels of CO2 could lead to confusion, headaches, and even death. And the bends, it's caused by nitrogen bubbles forming in the blood during rapid ascents.
Yeah, that can be debilitating and even fatal.
Haldane was inspired by his father's work on decompression sickness, and he took a very maybe bold, maybe reckless approach to research.
Okay.
He used himself as a test subject,
Wow.
enduring migraines and vomiting just to try to figure out safe CO2 levels for submarine environments.
It's groundbreaking research for sure, but it does make you think about the ethical boundaries of scientific research, especially in a wartime setting.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it was a different time, and the standards for human testing were certainly far less stringent than they are today. But it's also through these risky endeavors, these risky experiments, that crucial knowledge was gained.
So the whole team, they conducted countless experiments in hyperbaric chambers, essentially giant metal tubes that simulate diving conditions.
Right.
And these experiments, although they were essential, they were far from risk-free.
No.
It really makes you think about the sacrifices these researchers made, right?
Yeah.
Not just physical risks, but the emotional toll as well. We talked about Ursula Philipp, the scientist who Well, she was always spilling food on herself.
Oh, right, right.
Dr. Lance clarifies a detail about her escape from Germany. Apparently that story about her, fleeing right after defending her PhD and leaving her diploma behind wasn't entirely accurate.
Yeah, her daughter clarified that she just forgot to take it with her. A bit of absent-mindedness, even during such a dramatic escape. It's kind of a funny detail.
It's those human moments,
It is, yeah.
reminds us that even brilliant scientists are still, well, human,
Absolutely.
prone to those everyday oversights. But it also kind of underscores the challenges they faced on a personal level. Imagine escaping Nazi persecution only to face prejudice and discrimination in Britain.
That's hard to fathom.
Dr. Lance describes anti-Semitism and xenophobia in London at the time, even riots in the streets. It's a chilling reminder that even a nation fighting fascism abroad could struggle with intolerance at home.
It really highlights the complexities of history, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Progress isn't always linear, it's messy. These scientists were making vital contributions to the war effort, but at the same time, they were navigating a society that wasn't always welcoming or accepting.
It's incredible that they persevered at all, facing that kind of adversity. But speaking of perseverance, we have to talk more about Haldane.
Oh yeah, he was a character.
Brilliant, obviously, but also incredibly stubborn. Not afraid to clash with authority.
He definitely had strong opinions. He wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo.
Even if it meant bending the rules a little or ruffling some feathers.
Or a lot of feathers.
Dr. Lance has this amusing anecdote about him sneaking visitors into the lab during the Blitz. Apparently, he told them to pretend they were from the Ministry of Food just to get past the guards.
Oh, wow. That's dedication.
Talk about commitment to your research, right?
It shows his absolute dedication to his work. Even with the danger and the bureaucratic obstacles, nothing was going to stop him from his scientific goals.
But that single-mindedness also had a bit of a reckless side, didn't it?
Oh, definitely.
He refused to leave London, even when the Blitz was at its worst, completely ignoring the university's evacuation orders.
His commitment is admirable, of course, but it also shows a concerning disregard for his own safety.
And that disregard for safety wasn't just, ignoring air raids. Remember those self-experiments?
Oh,
Some of them went way beyond what we'd consider ethical today.
absolutely. Dr. Lance describes one experiment where Haldane exposed himself to incredibly high levels of carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
To the point of becoming aggressive and losing consciousness. And then he denied blacking out, which makes you wonder about the potential neurological damage.
It's scary to think about the long-term effects, not just on Haldane, but on the whole team.
Right.
They were pioneers, yes, but they were venturing into the unknown
Absolutely.
with little understanding of the risks.
It really highlights the cost of scientific progress. They pushed their limits, and sometimes those limits were exceeded, leading to injuries, health problems, potentially even long-term consequences that we might not fully understand even today.
And yet, despite those risks, they made groundbreaking discoveries. Discoveries that saved countless lives, not just during the war, but for decades to come.
Yes, their work on carbon dioxide poisoning and decompression sickness, it really formed the foundation for modern diving and submarine safety protocols.
Their research had such a profound impact, right?
Oh, huge. It influenced everything from the design of diving equipment to the development of those decompression tables that are still used today to prevent the bends.
And it's important to remember that these weren't just theoretical breakthroughs. This research was applied in the field, contributing to the success of critical wartime operations like D-Day.
It's amazing to think about, isn't it?
It is.
Their work in that, cramped, often dangerous lab in London had a direct impact on this pivotal moment in history.
They were the ones who enabled underwater scouting and demolition, which paved the way for the Allied landings.
It's a powerful example of how scientific research, even in the most challenging circumstances, can have such far-reaching consequences. It can shape the course of events. It can save lives.
And their influence wasn't limited to the war effort.
No, not at all.
Their work also had implications for space exploration.
Right.
The principles of underwater survival they explored, they translated directly to the challenges of working and living in the vacuum of space.
It makes sense when you think about it. The understanding of pressure, decompression, the effects of extreme environments that they developed, It all became foundational for the space programs that followed. It's a testament to the enduring legacy of the research.
And their story also highlights the interconnectedness of scientific disciplines, how seemingly unrelated fields can actually build upon each other's discoveries to advance our understanding of the world.
It really is a collaborative effort.
It is, and the chamber divers were a remarkable example of that collaborative spirit. Their legacy continues to inspire scientists and explorers even today. It's a story that really captures the human side of science, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just equations and data. It was about passion, perseverance, pushing those boundaries, sometimes even at great personal risk.
And don't forget the relationships, too.
The relationships.
Yeah, like the bond between Haldane and Helen Spurway, clearly fueled by their shared love of science. They understood each other in a way that few others could. And that connection must have been invaluable, especially under the pressures they faced.
Definitely.
It kind of makes you wonder, did their unconventional romance, which raised eyebrows at the time, maybe contribute to their scientific success?
Interesting.
I mean, they're outsiders in many ways, intellectually and socially. Maybe that allowed them to think differently, to challenge those norms, push the boundaries of what was considered possible.
That's a good point. Maybe being a little bit different outside the mainstream can actually be an advantage in a field like science. Innovation and creativity are so essential, right?
Their story, along with Ursula Philipp, Hans Kelmus, Hans Grunberg, the rest of the team, it reminds us that science is rarely a solitary pursuit.
No, it's a team effort.
Teams of people, diverse skills, different perspectives, coming together to solve these complex problems.
And facing challenges and setbacks along the way.
Oh, for sure.
Personal and professional, making mistakes, disagreements, limited funding, resources, you name it. But it's that perseverance, that drive to keep pushing forward that ultimately leads to those breakthroughs.
And the chamber divers are a perfect example of that spirit. They worked tirelessly in that cramped, often dangerous lab, bombs falling all around them to solve problems that many thought were impossible. And in doing so, they saved countless lives. But they also shaped the future of underwater exploration, even space travel.
It's amazing, isn't it, how far their work reached?
It's truly remarkable. Their legacy is a testament to the power of human ingenuity and collaboration in the face of adversity.
And their story is an important reminder for us all.
Oh.
To never underestimate the power of scientific inquiry and the impact that a dedicated group of individuals can have on the world.
So the next time you hear about a scientific breakthrough, remember those headlines, that data, those accolades. Behind all that are stories of real people with their own passions, their own struggles, their own triumphs.
Real people who dared to explore the unknown.
Exactly. And sometimes those stories, they're just as fascinating, just as important as the discoveries themselves.
And that's why we do what we do, right?
That's right. Dive deep into these fascinating chapters of history, unearthing those stories of remarkable individuals who dared to push boundaries and expand our understanding of what's possible. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.